The Founding Fathers, in their final moments, channeled all their power, their wisdom, and their hope for the future into one single powerful crystal, a crystal of liberty. They knew that one day the force of liberty would need a new champion, someone worthy to wield this ancient power and restore balance when the force of freedom was once again threatened. For generations, the crystal lay hidden, its power waiting for the right moment, the right person to awaken it. And then, one fateful day, it was discovered by a man named Austin Peterson, a libertarian, a modern-day freedom fighter who would fulfill the destiny set in motion centuries before. The crystal called to him, and with it, Austin took up the mantle of the colonial Jedi, determined to bring balance back to the force of liberty in the United States. Through his show, the Wake Up America show, Austin Peterson became the voice of resistance, the spark of rebellion against the creeping darkness of tyranny. With the power of the Founding Fathers' crystal, he fights not with lightsabers or blasters, but with the force of truth, reason, and unwavering dedication to the principles of liberty. So remember, young Padawan, the fight for freedom is never easy, but with courage, unity, and a little bit of force on your side, even the darkest Sith can be vanquished. May the force of freedom be with you, always. In a galaxy not so far away, but a couple of centuries ago, a great struggle unfolded. A time of turmoil, where the force of freedom clashed against the oppressive grip of tyranny. This is the story of the Founding Fathers, the brave Jedi of the colonies, who dared to defy the dark side of the Redcoat Sith. Master George Washington, leader of the colonial Jedi, was no ordinary soldier. With a flintlock blaster in one hand, capable of delivering precise shots with the power of 1,000 musket balls, and a lightsaber forged from the ancient Liberty crystals, Washington was the beacon of hope in the darkness that covered the 13 colonies. And then there was Benjamin Franklin, the Yoda of the Revolution. Wise, cunning, and always a few steps ahead, Franklin's mind was sharper than his lightsaber, which he personally modified to discharge bolts of lightning, perfect for frying any Redcoat Sith foolish enough to cross his path. But the colonial Jedi were not without opposition. The Redcoat Sith, led by the Dark Lord Cornwallis, had crossed the Atlantic, bringing with them the dark side of taxation without representation. Their red lightsabers blazed like the very flames of oppression, ready to extinguish the light of liberty forever. The battles were fierce, and the stakes higher than the price of tea in Boston Harbor. At Bunker Hill, the colonial Jedi held their ground, their flintlock blasters firing energy bolts that could punch through the toughest redcoat armor. With each pull of the trigger, a burst of light and smoke, a fusion of the old and the new. And who could forget Thomas Jefferson, the Jedi Knight who penned the Declaration of Independence with one hand while wielding his lightsaber with the other? It was he who gave voice to the rebellion, declaring that all men are created equal, with the inalienable right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Or, in this case, the right to take down a few Sith Lords. The final battle came at Yorktown, where the forces of light and dark met in a cataclysm.
Good morning, you beautiful bastards. Rise and freedom. Time for some good vibes in the morning. It's 7:02 a.m. Central Time here in Jefferson City, Missouri. I hope everybody's doing well here in the United States. And Bruce Birtwhistle, I see you up there in Canada.
How dare you?
Get on down here to the United States and get you some freedom. No, wait, hold on. Too many illegal immigrants. Come here legally after 15 years. Maybe we'll think about letting you in. It's the United States of America, and from now on,
it's going to be America first, okay? America first.
That's right, baby. America first. It's the Wake Up America show, streaming live Monday through Fridays, 5 days a week, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. I'm your host, and whether there may be another live show that happened last night until late in the evening, and I had to sit up and make that thing happen and then get my butt up early, you know I'm going to do it. I'm going to bring you the news. If I can bring you the news 5 days a week, I'm going to do it. If I can't, I can't. But I will. Sleep when you're dead. Last night's premiere of Culturama went off fantastically. Congratulations to Daniela Pensack. She went from being a friend of the show to a staple on Thursdays, and now her own show, Culturama, on the 4 Liberty Network, launched last night. And if you missed it, you can catch the replay, or you can just catch the next episode happening tomorrow night before the launch of my next show, Liberty Tonight, starring Brian Piotr and the king of all libertarians, Tomorrow night after Culturama, 7 to 9 p.m. Central Time, watch Daniela's second episode, and then Liberty Tonight premieres after that. It's a Tonight Show style Liberty themed talk show. I know you guys are going to love it. And how are we going to watch all these shows, Austin? 7 to 9 p.m. Central, then 9 to 11 p.m. Thursday. It's like, come, because tomorrow, like the day after Friday, nobody works on Fridays anymore, right, guys? You know, at least that's how the government works. Right? Did you know that Congress doesn't meet on Fridays, and that they actually they all fly home on Thursday nights so that they can have a nice little 3-day weekend for themselves? Boo, boo. Bow to the kings and queens of slime. The Wake Up America show is live, and we'd love your like. If you enjoy the Wake Up America show, click the like button. If today's your first time watching the show, make sure you click the follow as well. Kamala Harris to go on Joe Rogan.
Okay, I go first.
I don't think that she knows what she's getting herself into. This might end up being a big mistake for her. So you know what? I'm all for it. Do it. She's having trouble connecting with men, but guess what? It's the men who are the problem.
This is actually for all men. You know, I think men are in crisis, actually, in this country. I think that plays out different ways. And not all men are in crisis, of course. And not all men are just at home listening to Joe Rogan, being angry or being recruited to fascism. Some just need therapy, like we all do. I go to therapy, that's great. But I think we need to have a real conversation about that rather than allowing this kind of drift toward this faux masculinity that we
Look
see
at these
Donald
bitches.
Trump evincing.
Look at these bitches. They don't understand a damn thing about a man. You don't understand a damn thing about men. These three women are so cold, so out of touch. They have never known the touch of a real man. Look at them. Maybe a real woman, but that's okay. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Why can't the Kamala Harris campaign get men to vote for them? Well, when you have surrogates like this, or you have people, and when I say surrogates, this woman works for the Washington Post. That means that they're essentially always Democratic surrogates. You know what I mean? I'm saying right here. Oh, that was for the journalism, for the media. Please get the hell out of my stream with your stupid mRNA scam spam on my... I am now muting you forever. Get the hell out of my show. You want to advertise your snake oil crap? Send me lots of money. Dad Bod Baboon, how you doing? Says, I seriously doubt her handlers would allow her on Rogan. Not that he'd attack her or anything, but he won't coddle her like all the other program that she's been on. All 12 of them. Good point, Dad Bod. Good joke. You got her where it hurts. Yeah. Joe Rogan has said things like this.
You know, so everybody forever was like, Kamala Harris is the worst vice president. She's the least popular vice president of all time. And then in a moment in time, all of a sudden she's our solution. She's our hero. Everybody's with her. All these social media posts about her. Try Googling a negative story on her. You won't find one.
So,
ta-da.
Okay.
Ta-da! You're not going to find one. He's also, Joe Rogan said things like this.
This is a complete insanity. Look, January 6th was embarrassing. It was pathetic. It was confusing to me because there's parts of it that confused me. The parts where you have these clear agent provocateurs in the audience calling for people to go into the Capitol.
Eps.
Yeah, like clear. And then there's video of cops opening up barriers. What is that? Why did they do that? Is there ever been an explanation of that?
We really haven't seen like 10,000 hours of footage, which is held under lock and key, so we can't really know exactly. But you know what's interesting about what are you looking at here?
Okay, here it is. Vice President Kamala Harris caused outrage Thursday by comparing the January 6th Capitol Hill to the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor in 1941 and the September 11th attacks on New York and Washington by al-Qaeda terrorists. Certain dates echo throughout history, including dates that instantly remind all we have lived throughout.
Okay. This is a beautiful piece. This is how it works.
I understand, but we have to read what people listening to this.
But that's
they
the
need
whole
to
point.
know what the whole statement was.
I'm sorry. I got you.
Just let me get what she said out. Certain dates echo throughout history, including dates that instantly remind all who have lived through them where they were and what they were doing when our democracy came under assault. She said, dates that occupy not only a place in our calendars, but a place in our collective memory. December 7th, 1941, September 11, 2001, and January 6, 2021. That's insane.
Here's the thing. Thank you, Joe. Correct. It is insane to compare 9/11 and Pearl Harbor to January 7th. And the emperor wears no clothes. If Kamala Harris goes on Joe Rogan and he says something like that, the entire House of Cards will collapse. Meanwhile, you got people like Donald Trump going out there and speaking to Bloomberg. People say what you will about Bloomberg or even what Donald Trump said in his meeting with, where he answered repeatedly questions pinging him on his economic policy, and he stood up and he defended his economic policy. I mean, here's a little sneak preview here.
She just said the Green New Scam. She just named all these things.
But President Trump, the issue at the moment, the markets are looking at the fact you are making all these promises. Latest one was car loans. You're flooding the thing with giving giveaways.
But we're going to grow.
I was actually quite kind to you. I used 7 trillion. The upper estimate is 15 trillion. People like the Wall Street Journal, who's hardly a communist organization,
yeah, but you don't know.
They have criticized you on this as well. You are running up enormous debts.
What does the Wall Street Journal know? I'm meeting with them tomorrow. What does the Wall Street Journal know? They've been wrong about everything. So have you, by the way. You've been wrong about it.
You're trying to turn this. You've
been wrong about it.
No, you're trying to turn this into debate. There are business people.
But you're wrong. You've been wrong. You've been wrong all your life on this.
See, like, if Donald Trump and Joe went on Joe Rogan, he'd be okay, right? They'd probably the boys. Trump could give it back to him. But if Kamala has to actually stand up to questioning,
I can first.
Bro, it's not going to happen. I mean, she went out on Charlemagne the God. I've got the clip, the videos of that interview where she talks about reparations and et cetera, et cetera. I've got those. It's always a million billion clips here on the Wake Up America show, which I know you love. And I know you love guests, and I've got 3 amazing guests today. So I better tell you about the better plug real quick, because we're not going to have a whole lot of time for me to do commercials. I know you love that. But if I don't tell you that we're always trying to raise that $60 by the end of the show to hit the bonus content level. You get to unlock the bonus content, which is always a fantastic little mini documentary based around a story that you may not have heard somewhere else. So get those Rumble Rant donations in early and often. Vote with your dollars early and often, and twice on Sunday. That's legal here. And so do me a favor, make those Rumble Rant donations or go to forlibertyshop.com. Briefly before I move on, I can't not share this with you because I think you're going to think this is frigging hilarious. At least I think it's a hilarious concept. And I'll start with the 2 pillows that I made last night. forlibertyshop.com. We sold one of them. People were kind of, I think, confused by this concept, but I made a Culturama Atomic Dream pillow for Daniela's collection with her logo, which I think is really cute. But when you look at the image, people, I think, didn't know that it's cut out in the shape of the atom. They think that the pillow itself is like black, but that is actually the pillow cut out. But here's the one that we sold. Javier Milei pillow, chainsaw of freedom pillow. Okay, it comes in 3 sizes. Have you ever wanted to sleep with Javier Milei? Now you can. The Javier Milei chainsaw of freedom pillow, and it's got see how it's cut out so you can actually like the chainsaw sticks up, so it's like a custom size. Here's the thing. What if you saw a girl? Okay, let's say you're on the street, guys, and you see a girl and she's a 10, she's a perfect 10, but she carries a Javier Milei waifu pillow. Is it like, yeah, baby? Ooh, is she hot? Or is it scream, run away? She's psycho. You can get the Javier Milei waifu pillow, chainsaw freedom pillow over at forlibertyshop.com. And of course, the Culturama merch is there as well. It's beautiful. Go to forlibertyshop.com. Most of these things on our shop, you cannot get absolutely anywhere. There you go. Eric Wilson says that's turning into a yellow pillow in 6 months.
No, God, please, no.
No.
How dare you?
Absolutely disgusting. Thanks so much, guys, for supporting the Wake Up America show in our journey and trying to keep liberty, make liberty sexy again here in the United States. Waifu pillows, I guess, might be the way to go. You're the problem, man. You're the problem.
This is actually for all men. You know, I think men are in crisis, actually, in this country. I think that plays out different ways. And not all men are in crisis, of course. And not all men are just at home listening to Joe Rogan, being angry or being recruited to fascism. Some just need
they don't understand. So they're trying to get male voters. That's what this whole Joe Rogan thing is about. And I could talk about this subject for hours. Maybe I should definitely put a bookmark in it too for Camellia for yesterday, and maybe even Stephanie on Friday, of course, because she is a therapist and she deals with men who are in crisis. And so some of what she says there is true. However, most of what she's saying, and I believe that her premise is, of course, self-serving. And if Kamala Harris is unable to speak to the crisis that these men are facing, how is she possibly going to get her votes? And then to say demeaning things like watching Joe Rogan and getting interested in fascism, right? Like these people, they're so, the blind spots are so obvious. They talk about things like self-reflection or mindfulness, and in mindfulness, what it helps you to do as someone who engages in mindfulness, right, meditation as part of my martial arts and extracurricular activities for myself, is that they don't do the basics of mindfulness, which are things like self-reflection, putting people around you who can not only lift you up and support you, but also point out your blind spots. Nobody loves these women. Honestly, really. They could say their mother or their absent father, maybe their stepdad or whatever it is. But if men are in crisis in this country, I think women are also in a crisis. You can't have just one sex be okay and then the other sex is completely out of whack. There's a problem with both of us. And ladies, your crisis is that no one loves you. You're all alone. And a matter of fact, most of the people in your life that you think probably hate you actually do hate you. We can't stand you. We despise you, right? And that is why you've been used and then crumpled aside and tossed into the waste paper basket of relationships your entire lives. You are the problem. You are toxic, and no one wants to hang around you. And men would rather be alone, many of them, the ones that you say are in a crisis. They would rather be alone, working out, watching Joe Rogan, interested in fascist ideas like watching the Wake Up America show too. Oh, God, no. Because they think people like I am a fascist, right? So they can't see their blind spots, these people. They don't understand. They're going to get wrecked when Donald Trump wins, and he is going to win, as Cliff Maloney will come and tell us at 8:30 a.m. Central Time and explain to us what's happening out in Pennsylvania, because despite national polls saying Kamala is 2 to 3 points ahead or whatever, despite those national polls, guess what? It only matters the swing states. You can win the popular vote all day long. National vote doesn't matter. Not going to get you the presidency. What matters is the swing states, and guess who's got an advantage? Donald Trump. Hi. Donald Trump wa itikeru. Hai, arigatou gozaimasu. Yeah. So Maxim Lott joins us in 12 minutes to talk about the numbers. He's the owner of electionbettingodds.com. We're going to talk a little bit about the data, the numbers of the race. Then at 8 a.m. Central Time, I've got a really interesting story for you all with Judge Napolitano. The Supreme Court on Tuesday threw out a ruling against a Texas citizen journalist whom police arrested for asking the government questions, injecting new life into a free speech case that essentially asked if reporters working outside traditional media are entitled to a weaker version of the First Amendment. So in other words, people like myself who operate outside of the mainstream media as a reporter or journalist doing what I'm doing right now, this is, do I get a weaker version of the First Amendment? Yes, no, maybe so. We'll talk to Judge Napolitano about that because he and I have both been, credentialed and uncredentialed journalists at times of our lives. And now I would say we are uncredentialed journalists, but it doesn't mean that I don't have credentials. It's a complicated subject and something that I think we need a lawyer for. Judge Napolitano joins us at 8 a.m. Central. It would be big brain time. And then Cliff Maloney at 8:30 a.m. Central Time. If men are in a crisis, and the Kamala Harris campaign is trying to get more men to vote for them, do you think that this is the way to go about it?
The question to you is, what's your stance on reparations? We all know that America became great, off the backs of free black labor. How progressive are you on making it a priority and righting America's wrongs? It's understood that you are running for president for all people of America. Asking for specifics for black communities doesn't mean don't do for others, but black Americans are heavily asked to vote Democrat in every election for over half a century with very little in return. What are your plans to address these very important issues and change that narrative?
Thank you, Zeke.
I appreciate that. Thank you. And thank you for your work. So to your point, yes, I am running to be a president for all Americans. That being said, I do have clear eyes about the disparities that exist and the context in which they exist, meaning history, to your point. So my agenda, well, first of all, on the point of reparations, it has to be studied. There's no question about that. And I've been very clear about that position. In terms of my immediate plan, I will tell you a few of the following. One, as it relates to the economy, which is a lot of what you have addressed. Look, I grew up in the middle class. My mother, worked.
Dude, she said the thing. She said the meme. She said, I grew up middle class. Wow, I didn't know that. I'm hearing this for the first time. Yes. Kamala Harris, if you want to get male voters, I would say maybe reparations is not the way to go. Maybe black men. She's worried about black men too. That's why she's trying to buy them with weed and with money, the small business loans that she's proposing for black men only. Let's hear her policy proposals in regards to immigration or how she counters an immigration question.
But doesn't the Biden administration have to take some blame for the border, though? A lot of the blame? Because, the first 3 years, y'all did get a lot of things wrong with the border.
Charlamagne, within hours of being inaugurated, the first bill we passed before we did the Inflation Reduction Act, before we did the Bipartisan Infrastructure Act, before we did the Safer Communities Act to deal with gun violence, first thing we dropped was a bill to fix the broken immigration system.
But doesn't the Biden administration have to take some blame for the border, though?
Damn, dude. Actually, a real question. Don't get her on Joe Rogan. Don't put her on Joe Rogan. If you want to win the campaign, do not put yourself on Joe Rogan. She thinks she can buy black votes with what, reparations too? I don't know, man. I feel like even the brothers are starting to wake up these days. Like Obama was saying, the brothers are not showing up in the numbers like they did for him. Here's an interesting thing. CNN cut the stream after Kamala spent an entire hour on her interviews. They pulled the plug as things started to get a little hot.
Historically black majority population.
That's right.
Or
PRFM HD1.
All right, we've been listening for almost an hour.
And that's just way too much to hear from Kamala Harris. Listen, I grew up a middle-class Indian girl in Canada.
Okay, I can first.
Barney! First time I've ever seen CO Day in the Rumble chat. Nice to see you. Good morning, CO. CO Day. CO Day. CO Day, come now, me one go home. He said only 42% of black people have ties to slavery, and that's probably an exaggerated number. A smaller percent of whites have ties to slave ownership. Yes, very true. Good morning, CO Day. Well, we're glad to have you here, and thank you for commenting. We always love seeing new names and faces in the chat. You can text me directly during the live show or anytime you like if you want to get in touch with me at 573-319-1586. The text lines are open, and I respond to them as much as I can. We do get a lot of them, but I do try and comb through them at least a couple of times during the day. Sometimes people who are listening to the audio version of the podcast later will want to weigh in, and they can do so at that number, 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. I just got an email from a marketing agency says, how to turn a small podcast into big money in 2024. How do I do it, Kevin from Grow the Show? Well, you do things like saying, hey, help support the Wake Up America show and get yourself some freedom at the same time. Our Founding Flavors coffee is absolutely delicious, and you can't find it anywhere else. Only at forlibertyshop.com can you get Washington's Revolutionary Roast, a bold, robust, medium coffee. But if you're into something a little bit more electric, then Benjamin Franklin's Electric Elixir is sure to soothe the savage soul of any freedom fighter who loves 1776. Adam's Patriotic Perk, a dark roast for those who enjoy sipping something rich and hearty next to Boston Harbor before you go for a cold swim. And if I might recommend a couple of the coffee blends that we have, the Colombian Single Origin Roast, Thomas's Painkiller, my favorite because I named it after my favorite unofficial founding father, Thomas Paine. So Thomas's Painkiller over at forlibertyshop.com is a delicious blend. When you see those prices, you might say, oh my God, Austin, those are quite pricey. But two things. One, the shipping is included. Two, you get a discount if you buy more than one. And three, the coffee is ultra premium and 100 times better than Starbucks, which is crap compared to my coffee. I have the best patriotic coffee on the market at forlibertyshop.com. Buy a box, you help to unlock the bonus content. Somebody bought a Make Taxation Theft Again bath mat from our shop just a few minutes ago, I think. So that helps to unlock the bonus content, but we're not there yet. Once we hit $60 raised by the end of the show, you get to see the bonus content. Maxim Lott breaking down the race between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. He'll be right back. That's John Stossel's producer, by the way. Maxim Lott. He's a very, very tall man, a very, very smart man, and he'll be with us in just a few on the Wake Up America show on the For Liberty Network.
Are you tired of the strange radioactive effects of leftist culture? Do you ever wonder what happened to good old-fashioned American values? Well, fear no more, because there's a new force fighting back against the cultural rot of today. Introducing Culturama, a right-of-center talk show that's taking back the future today. Hosted by none other than blonde bombshell herself, Daniela Pensack. She's not just talking, she's taking culture back. With sharp takes, brilliant guests, and a few surprises along the way. Tune in to the live video podcast twice a week, because the future doesn't have to be weird. It can be Culturama.
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun.
I think that at the heart of my philosophy is much more libertarianism than well, that's the fashionable word these days, I guess. A conservative is no longer just that. He's a libertarian and always has been.
Yet any time you and I question the schemes of the do-gooders, we're denounced as being against their humanitarian goals. They say we're always against things, we're never for anything.
What is fascism? Fascism is private ownership, private enterprise, but total government control and regulation.
Well, the trouble with our liberal friends is not that they're ignorant. It's just that they know so much that isn't so. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. This is the issue of this election. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
The conservative, so-called, is the one that says less government, get off my back, get out of my pocket, and let me have more control of my own destiny.
Do you hate the deep state? Do you reject the Antichrist in all his ways? Do you believe that aliens controlled LBJ to assassinate John F. Kennedy? Did you know that the shot can put chemicals in you that will make you more sensitive to 5G? Do you love America? Do you want more freedom? Do you like smoking hot red-headed libertarians? Then the AP for Liberty shop is for you! Check out all the awesome new merch and have a happy new year! Fight the deep state, reject the Antichrist. Visit AP for Liberty shop and get your patriotic merchandise now, or the deep state wins.
Good morning. Rise in freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show on the For Liberty Network. I hope you guys enjoyed the brand new show. The launch of the For Liberty Network last night was an exciting event, and Daniela Pensack, the host of Culturama, did a fantastic job. It's scary running these live shows, pushing all these buttons. I got a million things happening over here, all this kind of stuff. I feel like a dancing monkey. But, you know, I just said to myself, one's good, why not three? So tomorrow night, another new show launch, Liberty Tonight, starring Brian Piotr and the king of all libertarians. That's right, you can go and throw tomatoes at him for saying he's the king of all of us, but he's the only real libertarian. And you'll find them tomorrow night here on Rumble as well. Culturama, 7 to 9 p.m. Central Time, Tuesdays and Thursdays. On Thursday nights, right after Culturama, you just tune on over to Liberty Tonight, rumble.com/Liberty Tonight. Watch the boys have some fun, some hijinks, and it'll be a great time, I promise. Thanks for your financial contributions, supporting the launch of the For Liberty Network. I've wanted to do something like this my entire career, and now we have begun. So, my next guest, he's got a background in media as well. He's a very tall man, a handsome man. He's a man's man, and therefore I highly doubt he'll be voting for Kamala Harris. Joining us live this morning on the Wake Up America show. Nice to see you, Maxim. Welcome to the show.
Great to be here with you, Austin.
Yeah, so what could Kamala Harris do to earn someone like your vote, Maxim? Does she have it in her? Do you think that she could, at the last moment, turn it around? I mean, what if she offered you like free weed? Would you do it for free weed?
I don't know if that would cut it. Yeah, that's a tough question. I would have to think about that one. But what I do see, I hear she's going on Joe Rogan to try to convince some young men. We'll see how that goes. The betting odds have been shifting in Trump's favor over the last 2 weeks. Basically, ever since the VP debate, that was kind of when things started turning around. And now they've shifted. Trump was at like 47% when the VP debate started. Now he's at 57%. So big shift.
I'm seeing these national polls and I'm just like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's not the national vote, the popular vote. The Democrats are never going to get over it. They just idolize the national vote. They're going to national vote themselves into a lot of crying liberal tier meme videos coming out the day after the election, because what are the states that matter? Pennsylvania and where else?
Yeah, there's 7 really. So Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, North Carolina, Georgia, Arizona, and Nevada. And those are the 7 states where your vote counts, basically. And those states, the polls have been shifting, ever so slightly, like 1.2 points in Trump's favor in the last 2 weeks. But that makes all the difference.
So it's all about timing. Early voting has already begun. I saw Georgia with some record, and Carrie Lake in Arizona, apparently after years of claiming that this early voting is terrible, decided to early vote herself. She's behind, but fascinatingly enough, she's like way behind in Arizona. Trump's ahead. She's way behind, which if you're a candidate, that is never a good sign if you're that far behind the top of the ticket. But Pennsylvania, Cliff Maloney is going to be joining us on the show at 8:30 a.m. Central Time to talk about his efforts out there. Pennsylvania really does. I think somebody was saying it's like 93% chance of winning the election if you win Pennsylvania. Doesn't it really just all come down to PA?
A lot of it does. Yeah, that's Nate Silver's modeling, who generally has been pretty good. He says 93% chance that the winner will win PA. So, these other states, it applies too. If you win Michigan, Trump's also going to win, basically. So but these Pennsylvania is the #1 state. You can calculate the value of a vote, which I've been running those numbers actually. So it's interesting. If you think the president is worth, say, 0.5 percentage point of GDP or something, a single vote in Pennsylvania is worth tens of thousands of dollars to society if it's for the correct candidate. I've just been running those numbers now because, picking the correct candidate's important, and Pennsylvania and Michigan and these places get to do it.
Such a nerd thing to do, but it's awesome. That's Maxim Lott. He's the owner of Maximum Truth. He is the co-founder of electionbettingodds.com. Prediction markets, what's happening over on the websites that you built where people are betting or at least you're tracking people who are betting their own money on the outcome of the presidential race?
Yeah, so there are 5 different websites now where people go and bet money on this. And my website, electionbettingodds.com, aggregates them all. And it's been this 10-point shift over the last 2 weeks. We've also seen the states flip, like the whole blue wall, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, those were all leaning Harris. Michigan, even they gave it 2/3 chance of Harris winning. Now they're all just ever so slightly leaning in Trump's column. So just looking at the map start to change colors, really interesting. But this is still a close race. It should be noted, 56% chance. It means that if you run the simulation 20 times, only 11 times of those Trump wins. So still very close, but the momentum looks right for him.
How far up until the moment, just curious, up until the election is called, how far up can you make bets in theory? I mean, until somebody has all the electoral college all the way?
Yeah, even after.
Really?
Yeah. So, Yeah, like this last election, it just kept going and going, and there were a couple diehard Trump people who were wasting their money. Even
Oh no, he's gonna act. So they were betting that he didn't lose. Oh no, it was the whole stolen election thing. They were like, he's gonna overturn it. I bet you these were the QAnon people. They were, they're poor and penniless right now. Oh no.
Well, at least markets are self-correcting. So you lose your money one cycle, maybe you don't put so much in the next one.
Now, Blue Trike just gave me $1 to ask you this question, Maxim, and I'm a little capitalist whore. He says, I love electionbettingodds.com. However, ask him about his record on 2016. What happened in 2016, Maxim?
Yeah, so the bettors said that Trump had a 20% chance of winning in 2016 on election morning, and obviously he would not win, but he did. Now, so you could say the bettors got it wrong, but I just looked at this the other day. Going back all the way to 2004, the bettors correctly predicted every other election. So Bush, Obama's 2 races, everything except that one. So if you think about it statistically, 20% means 1 in 5 times. So that should happen sometimes. And when you look at all the races we've tracked, they're very accurate. Like it follows 20%. It actually happens about 20% of the time.
I was laughing the other day at this reel by these 2 comedians. They're kind of like anti-woke comedians, but they were making this joke about people who don't understand averages, because you will tell them on average, black people steal or something like that. And then somebody will say, well, I know a black person who's never stolen. And you're like, do you not understand how averages work? There are always somebody who will point out the exception to the rule when you're trying to talk about the averages, Maxim. And despite that racist analogy, I swear it wasn't my idea. Some people just don't understand averages. But in 2016, nobody saw it coming, Maxim. I didn't see it coming. The bettors didn't see it coming. I've never seen the establishment work. They took Trump for granted in 2016 in a way that they didn't in 2020. Remember all the conversations about fortifying the election, et cetera, et cetera? I mean, are we seeing some of these same tactics that the left rolled out? Is the right, and we're going to talk to Maloney about this in a little bit more intensive way later, but do you feel as if Republicans or right-wingers are taking steps to mitigate the mistakes they made in 2020?
Good question. Definitely see some of that, where Republicans are no longer discouraging, for example, early voting or mail-in voting, which is important because, even if voters say, I'm sure I'm going to vote on election day, and then, their cousin needs to go to the hospital, or their boss says you have to work late, or there's just always some chance it doesn't work. So voting early, your vote gets in, it's done. So it was always a mistake for them to discourage that. So that's one shift in tone. You were asking about the Democrat side. You do see them kind of trying to pull similar tricks. In Virginia, for example, the governor was saying some people who are registered to vote, they said, I'm not a citizen. And they're trying to remove them from the rolls. And the federal government is suing them to block them, saying, you can't do this, because they might want to, I don't even know why. But so you do see some of the same old tricks playing out. The Democrats do seem to be pretty concerned. I mean, you see that with Harris wanting to go on Joe Rogan. That's obviously not something that I assume she would enjoy doing based on her history of interviews.
I want to play a clip for you, Maxim, if you don't mind. This is from MSNBC, where they're talking about, why Kamala Harris might want to go on Joe Rogan, and then get your reaction to this. Take a listen.
This is actually for all men. I think men are in crisis, actually, in this country. I think that plays out different ways. And not all men are in crisis, of course. And not all men are just at home listening to Joe Rogan, being angry or being recruited to fascism. Some just need therapy, like we all do. I go to therapy. That's great. But I think we need to have a real conversation about that rather than allowing
Were you surprised that she admitted that she also goes to therapy after she said what she said? What's your reaction to that, Maxim?
Yeah, it does seem like Democratic consultants are fairly out of touch with, say, Joe Rogan listeners. Like, just the whole infrastructure of academia, education, the media, it's just so built around these credentials, these, very kind of female thinking dominated.
We know these people, Maxim. We worked together in the same building where like these like kind of iron ladies, they sort of like police and enforce the zones, you know what I mean? And it's not just in the building we worked in, but in New York City and in Washington, D.C. as well. It's really hard to explain without being overtly offensive. But I mean, if men have problems, right, that if one gender can't have problems and the other gender doesn't have problems, I don't think these women understand how acidically toxic they are.
Yeah, I was fortunate to not see too much of that at Fox, but certainly in the industry as a whole, I noticed it.
Yes.
And yeah, totally agree. There's definitely this sense that, they're trying to make up for historical injustices by only casting men. But tell that to a 19-year-old guy who can't get a date. It's like, doesn't go over very well. He starts listening to Joe Rogan.
It's a real conversation, though, Maxim. I mean, I think it does speak to something in the zeitgeist here. Like she says that not every man is alone in listening to Joe Rogan and getting into fascism and things like that. It just speaks to a huge blind spot as to what the Democratic Party has when it comes to men like us. Did you see the commercial that they made with like the musical theater guys, trying to be like, I'm a man and I could vote, she has my full-throated endorsement. It's kind of like, okay.
You wonder if this is how specific ethnic groups feel when an ad or something is targeted so clearly at that. I saw in Pennsylvania, I did see an actual lawn sign, "White Dudes for Harris." So they exist.
They are, yes.
Feels a little bit patronizing and out of touch. I'll have to say.
It is. It's like, oh, they don't understand us. They think that that's going to motivate us. I'm going to look at a white dude and be like, yeah, white dude. Like, I don't walk by white dudes and think, hey, there's a white dude, right? Oh man, are we together, white guy, you, me, white guy? Like, it's just not how we think. They don't understand us. But maybe they should stay in therapy. I don't know that it's helping them. Sometimes some of them, I think it's hurting them. But we'll see how it shakes out at the polls on election day. I don't know how Democrats get men to vote for them again, but terrifying battle axes who boss people around and use identity politics is not going to be the way to get men to vote Democrat. Anyways, Maxim, is there anything that you think we may have missed today in regards to the horse race between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump? Any important factoids or plugs that you would like to make before we go?
Well, it's interesting to speculate a little on why the odds have changed now, because obviously Harris isn't a new candidate. And it seems like the VP debate might have made a difference. Vance had an A+ performance. This big hurricane and the kind of botched response, along with Israel, more trouble in the Middle East, just makes people feel like things aren't going well. The Harris honeymoon seems to be ending. And also these Trump ads may be pretty effective. They're really hitting Kamala on her past statements about free trans surgeries for inmates and illegal aliens, all this. And so that is making a difference. I have a Substack, Maximum Truth, where you can see things like the value of a vote analysis, lots of nerdy election content.
We love nerdy election content. We like to produce a little of it ourselves, not quite as nerdy as yours. Maxim Lott, you can find him if you're one of the 1,300 people watching us over on Elon Musk's X this morning. Thank you. You have made us the #1 live show streaming on X this morning. Thank you, Elon, and thank you to every one of those 1,300 people. Make sure you follow Maxim Lott over on X.com. Maxim, have a great day, and hopefully we're going to talk to you again before the election, at least once, if not maybe 2 or 3 more times. Okay, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Great one. That's Maxim Lott, who is we worked together in New York City, and he was a producer and still does work for John Stossel, and he's the son of John Lott, who wrote More Guns, Less Crime. He's kind of like, I would say Maxim Lott is sort of what you might say if we had a libertarian royalty to some degree in this country. Maxim Lott is kind of like what would you call him? He's like the Barron Trump of gun nerd politics, like, Second Amendment rights. He's the Baron Trump of such, but he's made a name in his own right and done an incredible work. And I have a lot of respect for him, which is why I bring him on the Wake Up America show. And isn't this a great show? Great content? Where else are you going to get these conversations? It's early in the morning and you're going to have a nice positive spirit, uplifting attitude to get you started for your day. You're beautiful, you're handsome, and gosh darn it, people like you. The Wake Up America show is brought to you 5 days a week. Due to the financial contributions of people like yourself, we're way behind on the bonus content.
No, God, please, no.
So what I recommend you do is before I go get Judge Andrew Napolitano joining us live in 12 minutes, I recommend that you go to forlibertyshop.com and do a little bit of shopping this morning. Today, we're selling the waifu pillows. Yes, waifu pillows. Forlibertyshop.com. Javier Malay, I need to just call it the waifu pillow. We had like this one afuera pillow, but nobody wanted that one. But somebody did buy a Javier Malay chainsaw freedom pillow. Afuera. It's not any ordinary pillow. It's cut into the shape of Javier Malay with a chainsaw. It's a special pillow, and that price is a special price that isn't going to last very long. As a matter of fact, by the time this show is over, that price is going up because I know it's worth it, and you guys better get it now. Do you want a Javier Malay waifu pillow? Imagine somebody comes to your house and they sit on that pillow and they're like, who is Javier Malay? And then all of a sudden you get to be like, yes, afuera. You get to tell them all about Javier Malay. Or even better, you bring her up and she sees the Javier Malay pillow. She realizes that you're the one for her. Oh, yes. And she was the right woman for you all along. And if she's not, well then...
No offense, but it sounds like some fucking commie gobbledygook.
Kick her out of the house. She doesn't appreciate your Javier Malay waifu pillow. All right, so 10 minutes until Judge Andrew Napolitano joins us here live in the show. We're going to talk to him about a story on the Supreme Court throwing out a ruling against a Texas citizen journalist whom police arrested for asking the government questions. Thank you to Andy Opperman, down with tyranny, up with bonus content. Yes. We're getting closer to unlocking the bonus content for today. $60 makes me holla and unlocks the mini documentary that I produce every ding dang day for this show. And we have unlocked every ding dang day for the last 4 months, growing the Wake Up America show into a full-blown podcast network. Oh my God. Becky, look at her butt. Looks like one of those rap guys' girlfriends. The Wake Up America show is part of a triumvirate. Julius Caesar, Marcus Crassus, and Pompey together. Culturama, Tuesdays and Thursdays, 7 to 9 p.m. Central Time. And Thursday nights, right after Culturama, Liberty Tonight, starring Brian Piotr. I love doing the Saturday Night Live voice or the announcer voice. If you're watching us anywhere but over on rumble.com and you find yourself saying, hey, hello, is there anyone here? There is someone here, and they are here at rumble.com/AP for Liberty. If you want to comment, hang out with us, do that. Come on over to rumble.com/AP for Liberty. The step into my parlor, says the spider to the fly. My mom said that. And if you want to text the show, you can do so. See that number on the screen? 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. For those who are wondering about the lost camera, that's Steffi's camera here in the studio. So a little bit of good news. Somebody's going to let me borrow a camera on Friday so I can get Steffi on the show and not have a problem, which is good, right? But the camera is pretty much gone. And I got to give the other one back. So hopefully a new camera we will get soon so that we can see Steffi in all her glory. The Wake Up America show we had a oopsie on Oktoberfest. I had a couple of big beer steins. It's my fault, but I have baby brain too. So all I can think about is just, get the baby in the car and then, take the baby, leave the cannoli. But in this situation, we took the baby and then we left the cannoli on the table, which was my beautiful Sony A6000 camera. And thankfully, it was the old one. Thankfully, it wasn't the brand new, beautiful Sony A7 III that I have now. And you can see me in full high definition. But we'll do it. We're going to get a new camera, and then we'll get Steffi on the camera. But thankfully, Friday, we've got the problem solved. We can borrow one. But please do get those Rumble Rant donations in to help us to replace lost equipment. And I apologize for my irresponsibility. I'm juggling a lot right now. There's a lot going on. Wake Up America show, #1 on X. You'll have to see it. Judge Napolitano. Then Cliff Maloney. And also on the show, we love to say we keep it tight, keep it close, and we play a million billion clips.
Opponent, Vice President Kamala Harris, what she's been up to, what she's...
Is it a woman or a man?
...about to do, which is a sit-down interview with Bret Baier on Fox News Channel. There's also some discussion we're hearing that she may do the Joe Rogan podcast, the most popular podcast in the country.
But if she does Joe Rogan, and then this, if she does Joe Rogan, that's an exact, she's aiming right at young men, right, which is a constituency that polls show that not just her, but the Democratic Party is getting a little shaky on, and those men are more interested, seem interested in Donald Trump. And so basically she and the campaign are trying to say, we're not scared to go in front of what folks might think is unfriendly waters or enemy territory and have the same conversation, right?
Meanwhile, let's contrast that with Donald Trump, who hasn't sat for any sort of interview of any consequence, of any sort of, aggressive questioning in months.
And I think that what they're doing with these media outlets where they're going to Joe Rogan and Fox, like, there are people who listen to Joe Rogan who will have never heard Harris speak. Right? They'll have never heard an interview with her, because where would they have heard it? And so I do think there's this very smart tact where they are trying to puncture these media silos to get her out there, because they feel that she is being misrepresented.
Really? Really? Judge Napolitano, I like big brains and I cannot lie. You other brothers can't deny. When a show turns on with an itty-bitty waist and a round thing in your face, you get smarts.
Do not come.
What?
Do not come.
I'm going to come.
Judge Napolitano is going to come up next. Oh, we're going to talk about, do journalists, people like myself and the judge, do we have more rights than you? We kind of do, but also we kind of don't. But we kind of do. Yes, no, maybe so. When we get back, we haven't unlocked the bonus content yet. Go shopping, forlibertyshop.com on the For Liberty Network.
Haunted by high prices and big government? Don't be a ghost of your former self this Halloween. We've got shirts that'll keep the ghouls and the government off your back. Inflation's scarier than any haunted house. But hey, why not turn it into a costume? Or how about our spooky government shirt? Guaranteed to spook anyone who's afraid of too much power. But if you're feeling real edgy, nothing says Halloween like our Michael Myers No Lives Matter shirt. Because when it comes to big government, we all get slashed. At forlibertyshop.com, we believe in freedom, not fear. So grab your libertarian Halloween gear before the government takes an extra bite out of your wallet. Or your candy. forlibertyshop.com. Let's make Halloween tax-free.
Hello, this is Barack Obama, and let me tell you why Austin Peterson stinks, and you should never pay attention to anything that he has to say. First of all, he's a libertarian, and we all know libertarians are idiots. They don't realize how important government is to everything that we do. I recently became aware that Austin has opened up a libertarian shop at apforlibertyshop.com. Now, I'm asking you as a personal favor to me that you never ever visit apforlibertyshop.com. With all of the great Liberty merchandise there, the last thing that we need to do is to get people spreading this message around the country, because then they might start thinking that they don't need government. And that's the last thing that good Democrats like us want. So if you love democracy, like me, and hate freedom, then don't visit AP for Liberty Shop. Like I said, whatever you do, do not visit apforlibertyshop.com. I'm Barack Obama, and I approve this message.
I would remind you that extremism in the defense of liberty is no vice.
It is better to settle these matters in the courts than on the streets, and new laws are needed at every level. But law alone cannot make men see right.
Good morning. Rise in freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show on the For Liberty Network. I love to start my day with nothing but good vibes and great conversations over a delicious cup of coffee. Good friends like Judge Andrew Napolitano don't come along but once in a lifetime. The kind of relationship that I had with my former boss, now friend, is one that you could write a book on by itself, where you go, the main character goes, if I were the main character, he's the main character of his life, of course. If I were the main character, then standing on a subway, yelling at people, reading Ron Paul books, and then taking a little time to squeeze in some Judge Napolitano as well. A few years later, you're at the top of some glass tower saying, "Yes, sir, I would love to come work for you, sir." And then you spend 2 years freedom fighting, some of the best years of your life. Maybe the best is for people like us. Good morning, Judge. Nice to see you.
Good morning, Austin. You gave me goosebumps with the fond memories that you brought back with that brief recitation of the early days of our working together. They were great days for both of us and for everybody else that was on the team.
It's hard to know what's inside someone's innermost thoughts, Judge, but in some ways, you've never been more relevant than you are now. You seem to have more zest and zeal than than I've seen from you even before. Almost as if, taking this entrepreneurial venture upon yourself to launch the Judging Freedom podcast has sort of honed you to some degree, and now you have an audience bigger than you ever had, and more power over what you can say than you ever had, which actually makes you more dangerous to the government than you've ever been, which makes you the one true libertarian. If you're not a threat to the government,
it's a space, a venue that I never thought I would occupy, but it's been far more successful than I could have imagined. It's been fabulously successful. We will hit 500,000 subscriptions by Christmas, and we hit between 11 and 12 million views a month every month, and we're well on track for that here in the middle of October.
For those who are
And
interested,
getting to chat with you is one of the highlights of the week because of what you have called it, big brain time. Now that is referring to your brain, not mine.
no, Judge, no, it's yours. We are going to talk today about some big brain topics, and I'm so thankful that I have you here to discuss this case, which was so fascinating to me because it's so personally pertinent to my career, your career, and to free speech here in the United States. This is a story about a reporter who was arrested for asking questions. The Supreme Court revived her lawsuit. Priscilla Villarreal's case is about whether certain reporters have more robust free speech rights than others. That's a curious question there, Judge. Can you explain for us, please?
So this lady is a reporter in Laredo, Texas, and she reports the news by posting it on Facebook, and then she runs ads, and that's how she generates her income. She showed up at police headquarters asking some questions to verify information she had already gotten from another police source. Like a good reporter, she wants two sources before she reports something. She was arrested by the police for asking them a question based upon a local Laredo ordinance, which apparently prohibits the use of internal government sources for personal gain. This is probably a statute that was written to prevent insider trading or something like that. The alleged personal gain to her was enhancing her audience on Facebook. But in reality, she was a journalist reporting on a criminal event and wanting to verify the facts. So she's arrested. She gets out of jail. She sues in federal court the town of Laredo. A federal judge throws it out. She appeals to the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals in New Orleans. A 3-judge panel reinstates it. The city asks the entire Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, which is 15 judges, to hear it, and they throw it out. She appeals to the Supreme Court, and on Monday of this week, the Supreme Court said, let's see what a jury thinks about this. So the Supreme Court of the United States, without an opinion and without a dissent, reinstated the case. My guess is that it will be settled for a financial amount that we won't even know about rather than actually being tried. But I hope it is tried, because to me, this statute, it is inconceivable that it could be defended with a straight face. How can it possibly be a crime to ask the police a question about a fact?
So she is a troublemaker. She goes and she does videos in her community where she asks difficult questions of government officials. She has recorded police officers in the line of duty committing crimes and has reported that to the public. She's become a nuisance to her local government and to law enforcement because she has engaged in First Amendment protected activity. The question of whether or not a reporter or a journalist has more rights is one that I see being tossed about in this case. Does a journalist or a reporter have more rights? And it's fascinating because if you consider the First Amendment, it actually mentions our industry specifically, which might lead one to wonder, do people like yourself and myself, do we have more rights?
When you say more rights than whom? If the question is, do reporters have more rights than the average public? The short answer, according to the Supreme Court, is yes, because the First Amendment is the eyes and ears of the public. Eyes on, ears peeled to the government. She has every right. You can walk into a police station and say, isn't it true that such and such a thing happened at such and such a date? And they can go, say, take a hike, show your press credentials, and they have to answer the question. That's what it comes down to, because the press is the eyes and ears of the public. And if she's a pain in the neck to the government, God bless her. The government, we all need pains in the neck to the government to keep the government transparent, so that we know what it's doing and how it's doing it and why it's doing it. And what this government is putting her through, it's going to end up paying all of her legal bills under a federal rule that prohibits and frivolity and rewards the victim of frivolity by getting their legal bills paid by the frivolous one.
Judge, it
It's
was
unfair
from
because it's taxpayer dollars being wasted by an aggressive prosecutor and a wounded police chief who's embarrassed at what this lady has exposed in his police department.
Judge, it was from you, I think, that I heard the first time the Thomas Jefferson quote about government and newspapers. Would you share that with us now?
I would, if I had to choose between government without newspapers and newspapers without a government, I should not hesitate for a moment to favor the newspapers. Now, here's somebody who was excoriated by newspapers. I mean, when he ran against John Adams in 1800, the lies that were told about him, mainly about his personal life, were so severe, he decided not to pay attention to them, not even to bother answering them. They just generated more conversation about it. It was actually, even though obviously they didn't have the means of communication then that we have today, it was actually at a level lower than what we have today.
Judge, is it true that the New York Post, which we used to work in the same building as, was it founded by Hamiltonians, Alexander Hamilton's crew, specifically to smear Thomas Jefferson?
Yes, it was. I mean, it's had many, many owners since then, and obviously, when Hamilton founded it, it was in support of the Federalists, big government. Their banner used to say "Founded by Alexander Hamilton," and with a little logo of his face on the front page, until our former boss Rupert Murdoch bought it. And your former boss said, "Why is Alexander Hamilton's picture on the front page of the New York Post?" And suddenly it was gone.
Man, no, I don't think I would have done something like that. I would have left it, just because I think it goes to show a little bit about the ideological background of that paper, which is a fascinating history, even if we would have been more on the side of the Jeffersonians. Speaking of, the reason why I bring that up is because not only is it so pertinent to this story of what we're discussing, Judge, but I saw someone had actually bastardized the Jefferson quote the other day to say, "I would rather have Elon Musk without government than no Elon Musk and government," because of how the government of California is treating Elon Musk and denying his capability through the Air Force, no less, trying to give him authorization to launch rockets off the coast of Santa Barbara. And the commission that oversees or regulates rocket launches in California has denied the government the ability to have rockets launched for the government. And because Elon Musk allows people like you and I to speak freely on his platform X. We are #1 show right now live on X, by the way. So thank you to Elon Musk, and thank you to your dog, who understands the greatness of what's happening right now.
Chris, come here.
It's fine, Jed. It helps humanize you.
Yes. So listen, Elon Musk owns SpaceX. Let me just put Chris outside.
Yeah, go ahead. I'll finish setting up the story for the rest of the people. So Elon Musk owns SpaceX, wants to launch. The government wants to give him 25 more launches for next year in California. And California officials stated specifically that they would not allow this to go forward because of the misinformation occurring on X, which they claim is Elon Musk's fault. Go ahead, Judge.
They called it political falsehoods. So the California Coastal Commission, which regulates the use of, don't be surprised, private property in California, would not allow Elon Musk to launch a satellite for the government using his own satellite equipment on his own property, because 2 members of the 5-member commission said he uttered political falsehoods about FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Administration, an entirely unconstitutional concoction from the Nixon years, and climate control. The point being, he was denied the free use of his own property because of his political opinions. And the phrase that these two members that voted against him used was political falsehood. There is no such thing as a political falsehood in America. Under the First Amendment, you can articulate any political opinion you want, and you can't suffer at the hands of the government before it. We can decide not to use X if we think the owner is crazy, but the government can't decide not to allow him to use his own personal property because they disagree with him politically. This was not a matter of safety. It was not a matter of engineering. It was not a matter of convenience. It was just a matter of politics. And I wrote about it in my piece with, I think, the provocative title, "Who Cares What the Government Thinks?" That's what this is about. Government speech. Government drowning out private speech. Government punishing people because they disagree with the government's speech. Does the government have the freedom of speech? I once put that question to none other than Antonin Scalia himself in front of 2,500 people. Maybe you were there when I did this. I don't remember the year. It was when I was teaching at Brooklyn Law School, and this was at the Brooklyn Academy of Music. He argued that the government does have the freedom of speech, that it has to be able to tell you the speed limit is 25 miles an hour. That's a men's room. That's a ladies' room. And I said, that is really not what we're talking about. We're talking about government entering the marketplace of ideas. Let's suppose, Justice Scalia, that the states ratified an amendment repealing the first. Would there still be the freedom of speech? Well, of course there would. It's a natural right. How can the government have a natural right? It's not a natural being. It's an artificial creation based on force. And he looks at me and he goes, "You're a freak for the natural law." It was a Friday evening. By Monday morning, back at the law school, there were mugs all over the place that said, "Freak for the natural law." I don't know how the kids got those mugs made.
I need to put those in my shop, or you should start your own, Judge. That's a great story.
Right.
Great.
But the point is, the government does not have the freedom of speech. If it does, it will drown out the rest of us. It has a bigger, larger megaphone, and it has an army of tax collectors and an army with guns to enforce its speech. It is inconceivable that the First Amendment protects the government. It is inconceivable to me that these people in the California Coastal Commission will not be reversed by the first federal court that looks at this, which, knowing Elon Musk, will probably happen before the end of this week.
Yeah. And it's also, I would say, related, this is tangential to that, but I would say that sometimes Republicans, right-wingers, even libertarians will talk about a concept like states' rights, but I don't think states have rights either, right? Only individual people, natural human beings, have rights. States have powers, and those powers can be only explicitly granted to them via a proper constitutional process. Would you also...
Correct. Just as the states never gave the power to the federal government to enter the marketplace of ideas, the people in the states never gave the states the power to do the same. So the states can't give away what they never had. I have railed, and I know you have, for generations against our libertarian friends who think that if the states do it, it's okay, because if you don't like it, you can move to another state. I mean, slavery was enforced by the states. The states can do horrible, awful things, as can any government. And natural human rights trump, lowercase t, all government, local, state, and federal.
Judge, these are great conversations, and we can only have them with you. But if you love this point of view, then I highly recommend that you download his Judging Freedom podcast. The conversation that we were just having, you can read more of and get into the mind of the judge. On Thursdays, his column appears at judgenap.com. This entire conversation about freedom of speech and Elon Musk, you can find well summarized in an incredible piece dropping tomorrow at judgenap.com. As for his podcast, you can download that on any of your mobile devices. And it's a big one, too. They'll hit 500,000 subscribers by Christmas time. Judge Napolitano, bigger than he's ever been, but also in some ways smaller than he's ever been. He used to be a very round Italian man, and now he is a healthy, jaunty-looking fellow.
You know, you talked about my energy level, and I wonder if it's because I am 40 pounds lighter than when you and I worked together, but I have tremendous energy, and I look forward to going to the gym 3 days a week and having my trainer beat the daylights out of me.
Hey, Judge, how would you respond to criticism of the Electoral College? Because if Trump wins this election, it's going to be because of the Electoral College. We know that you and I both know that the popular vote, despite the fact it doesn't really matter at the end of the day, that the Democrats are desperate to get rid of it because it means Democrat rule now and forever. So we'll be having conversations about the Electoral College if Donald Trump wins. One of the big criticisms the left has been aiming at the Electoral College is that it's a bygone product of the days of slavery because of the 3/4 compromise when the Constitution was initially written. How would you respond to a criticism of the Electoral College because of its historic or maybe not historic ties to slavery?
When you say 3/4, you mean 3/5, and you're talking about counting slaves for the purpose of apportioning congressional districts and thus the number of electoral votes. I honestly think that there is some validity to that argument. However, there are aspects of our system that are anti-democratic, and the anti-democratic aspects of it are there to prevent runaway populism from carrying the day. For example, we have life tenured judges. That's the anti-democratic branch of the government, whose job it is to make sure the majority acting through the legislature and the presidency do not interfere with the life, liberty, or property of the minority without due process. The Electoral College is an anti-democratic function to make sure that states' sovereignty is not forgotten. You talk about states' rights. When the Alien and Sedition Acts, which prohibited criticism of the government and punished it after conviction with incarceration, came out, Madison and Jefferson wrote the famous Kentucky and Virginia resolutions. They wrote them anonymously, but most people knew who they were. These were enactments by the laws of Kentucky and the laws of Virginia that invalidated the Alien and Sedition Acts because there was no authority for them under the Constitution and because they directly violated the First Amendment. So among the authority of the states, in my view, in the view of the guy who wrote the Declaration of Independence, in the view of the guy who wrote the Constitution, is that the states can invalidate unconstitutional behavior of the federal government. If they can do that, they should have a very significant say in who the chief executive is.
That's a fascinating point of view on that, Judge. I'm glad that I'm glad I thought of that question to ask you, because now I can clip that and go back and refer to it, Judge, when people mount that criticism, because it is a good question. And I'm glad that you're able to see these things clearly without the lens of partisanship or without the sort of identity politics that most people have. But speaking of identity politics, Judge, as an Italian man, how did you react to the news the other day about Christopher Columbus, Sephardic Jew?
I honestly think that's nonsense. Why would he have had a priest with him, and why would he have celebrated Mass when he got here?
Because people are anti-Semitic.
Pardon me?
Because people are anti-Semitic, and Europe is deeply anti-Semitic. So if he were a Jew, then converting to Catholicism and having a priest near him and pretending to be Catholic would be a wise decision on his part, because he never would have sailed to the United States or gotten a commission to do so.
Yeah. Samuel Eliot Morison, the great Harvard historian who wrote the classic book, which I have read, it's about 650 pages, called Admiral of the Ocean Seas, which is his biography of Christopher Columbus, makes it clear that he was Catholic. But it really doesn't matter to me. What matters is that we're here.
Right. It was a fascinating question because DNA tells us so much about ourselves, right? And reveals that, what was it? Was it Napoleon who said that history is a set of lies agreed upon, right? To some extent, the national myths that so many that are foundational to so many of our cultures are powerful myths. That's why there was the sort of antibiotic response to someone suggesting that Winston Churchill was the great evil of World War II, and there was a very strong response against this because of the Western cultural myths that we're grounded in today. So I wondered what you thought the other day when the news came out that he was Sephardic Jew. And
I never heard of DNA being able to discern what a person's religion was. It can discern a place of origin, but not a religion or even a reason for converting. And as for Churchill being a monster, I couldn't agree more. That's another story.
Judge Napolitano. Yeah, we should have a really good discussion about that sometime, Judge. I read all of the Mises books about Churchill and his biographies, and he's a complicated figure and one that we won't be able to dissect in a simple conversation under 5 minutes. Judge, what are people going to get to see on your highly successful Judging Freedom podcast?
The great Colonel Douglas McGregor today at 11 o'clock Eastern and at 2 this afternoon, Phil McGregor. The question for McGregor is, can Israel survive Netanyahu? And the question for Giraldi is, what October surprise is awaiting us? And he has a very fascinating one that he suspects, but I won't reveal what it is.
Judge Napolitano, download Judging Freedom on all your podcast apps and read his column at judgenap.com. Judge Andrew Napolitano, our good friend, thank you for sharing with us your thoughts. We're very grateful.
Thank you. Pleasure. God bless you and your
Thank you very much. That's Judge Andrew Napolitano. Give him a round of applause. We are so close to unlocking the bonus content. It's not even funny, but we haven't unlocked it yet. We're like right down to the wire to unlock today's mini documentary. Once we hit the $60 total, we are going to unlock the bonus content for you guys. You'll be able to watch it, view it, but not yet. Not quite there yet. Get those Rumble Rant donations in or go to forlibertyshop.com. Cliff Maloney, he's pounding the pavements to fight for your right to party. Well, to get Donald Trump elected and win Pennsylvania. The PA chase when we get back on the Wake Up America show on the For Liberty Network. Don't go away. We started this journey together, bringing you the Wake Up America show every morning. I couldn't have done it without my incredible wife, Steffi, who's always by my side, and now our beautiful baby, Hazel, who's already getting used to studio life, waiting patiently during Freedom Family Fridays. What truly makes this show special is you, your donations, your purchases from forlibertyshop.com. You're not just supporters, you're family. Together we've built something amazing, and we're just getting started. Thank you for being a part of our family. Here's to many more years of Wake Up America.
I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message. Believe me, Austin Peterson is the best. He's got the greatest Wake Up America show I've ever seen. Whenever I tune in the mornings and watch the live stream, let me tell you, he has got the absolute best content. I love his guests. It's just a total blast to watch, and I highly endorse and recommend the Wake Up America show. It's terrific, believe me.
Is the outdoor of your home about as exciting as a library? Then spice it up and unbore your space with our custom metal signs. Crafted with love and a bit of libertarian magic, you can customize your own metal sign at ap4libertyshop.com. So head to ap4libertyshop.com, customize your own metal sign today.
Welcome to a world of vocal discovery at Peterson Voice Studio. I'm Justin Peterson, here to guide your musical journey. Envision a place where your voice reaches new heights, where every note tells a story. We embrace all singers, from the enthusiastic shower vocalists to aspiring stars, ensuring each voice finds its unique rhythm and tone. Are you ready to elevate your voice? Visit petersonvoicestudio.com and sign up for remote lessons tailored just for you. Let's begin this melodious journey together.
Tired of spending your hard-earned money on woke corporations that don't share your pro-freedom values? Fed up with sipping liberal lattes and progressive cappuccinos? Introducing Founding Flavors from AP for Liberty Shop. Get your day started with Washington's Revolutionary Roast. As robust and principled as the man himself, this blend is the shot of energy heard round the world. Or maybe you want to taste the fervor of freedom with Adams's Patriotic Perk. It's as dynamic and balanced as the U.S. Constitution, sure to awaken your spirit of liberty. For the aficionados, we've got the Jeffersonian Java, a complex mix of flavors that speaks volumes about your refined tastes. And don't forget Betsy's Liberty Lullaby, our decaf option, crafted with the same care and dedication Betsy Ross put into our Star-Spangled Banner. This blend lets you enjoy the taste of freedom anytime without losing sleep. No woke beans here, folks. Just pure, patriotic, pro-freedom flavors brewed with love for liberty. So why compromise your principles for a cup of coffee? Stand up for your values, perk up your patriotism, and start your day the American way. Get your Founding Flavors at apforlibertyshop.com. Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show on the For Liberty Network. Yeah. That's not here yet. He will. He said he botched his setup, but he's going to be here in just a moment. I sent him the text message with the line. We're going to talk to him and hear from him on how things are going out in Pennsylvania. But because AP is always prepared, I've got an interesting clip for you to hear. Take a listen.
So I got to say that's consistent with my personal experience of black men specifically. Yeah. Not that I'm around black men all the time, but actually fairly regularly.
Yeah.
Don't know that many black men who are Republicans, but I know zero black men who are liberals.
Yeah.
Not one.
Yeah.
I can't remember the last time I met one.
Yeah.
Is that seems like a trend?
If the anecdotal is even close to true, Trump will break the record among support from black men. I mean, he'll smash it if the anecdotal is close to true. It's all over social media. It's all over my platform. It's all over every story I hear. And part of it, I'll give you a couple of elements of this that I think is important. Part of it is Trump has always had appeal with kind of a macho, rich, pretty wife thing.
Yeah.
Has that. But it's also, this example of biased coverage. The press says when Trump says some young black men identify with him and their parents because he's been persecuted, the press says that's racist. My experience is just true. They get the fact that the legal system comes after people unfairly. And if it can happen to Trump, it can happen to them. And it has happened to them and their family and their communities. And then lastly, the failure of liberals to make life in cities for poor kids better is also a massive scandal. Another scandal is that the Republican Party hasn't done anything to capitalize on it and create competition to be mayors of these cities.
For sure.
But when Trump says, I'm for criminal justice reform and I'm for fixing schools and I'm for creating more economic opportunity, he did criminal justice reform. The other stuff, his record is spotty, but he's saying, as he said in 2016 when people mocked him, what do you have to lose? These young black men say, the Democratic Party offers nothing to me. Trump might offer something to me, and he's done criminal justice reform. I think again, you can be the most partisan.
It's going to be wild if Trump Trump gets the black male vote. And it might be because Trump is funny.
How about this? Gavin Newsom, he's the governor of California.
Newsom.
He signed Newsom, I call him.
But do you think?
No, he corrected me. He corrected me. I said, that's the first time I've been corrected.
There are CEOs out here. If they said those sort of things about a rival CEO, they'd be sacked. Do you think it's
but
fine
they don't have
for a
to
president?
survive like me. They don't have to go through what I have to go through. There's never been a president that's been treated like me, so I have to fight my own way.
Damn straight. That's right. They don't know what he's had to go through. They're not in his shoes. They're not the man in the arena. It might be men in the arena in their own way, but not in the arena that he is in.
This is a party, the Republican Party, of common sense. Forget about conservative, liberal. Let's say conservative.
Excuse me.
This is a party, the Republican Party, of common sense. Forget about conservative, liberal. Let's say conservative, but we're really a party of, we need borders, we need fair elections, we don't want men playing in women's sports, we don't want transgender operations without parental consent. There's so many things, but it's 99.9% is common sense. It really is common sense. Look, this is a party.
It's a good pitch in my mind, and he continued on. This is Trump at Bloomberg yesterday. Here he is defending his tariffs.
And yes, you're going to find some people who will gain from individual tariffs. The overall effect could be massive.
I agree. It's going to have a massive effect, positive effect. It's going to be a positive, not a negative.
Well,
let me just I know how committed you are to this, and it must be hard for you to spend 25 years talking about tariffs as being negative, and then have somebody explain to you that you're totally wrong. It'll have a negative. It will have. I'll go a step further.
40
if
million,
you don't
40
do
million,
this,
President
this
Trump,
country
40
has
million,
no
40
chance.
million jobs is a lot of jobs to rely on.
They're all coming back.
Those are 40 million jobs. Those are 40 million jobs in America that rely on trade.
Are you ready? John Deere, great company. They announced about a year ago they're going to build big plants outside of the United States, right? They're going to build them in Mexico.
And you threatened them with tariffs and they stopped.
That's right. I said, if John Deere builds those plants and not selling anything into the United States, they just announced yesterday they're probably not going to build the plants, okay?
That's Donald Trump yesterday at Bloomberg answering some difficult questions on his economic policy. Do you think Kamala Harris could pull off something like that? There's all this talk she's going to go on Joe Rogan. I don't think she's going to be able to go on Joe Rogan. Not when the few interviews that she had, she can't even get straight what her economic policy is. Is it Bidenomics? What is it?
This is a margin of error race. It's tight. I'm going to win. But it's tight.
I'm going to win. It's a new accent. It's the Kamala Harris School of Accents. Joining us now to talk about which accent Kamala Harris is on which time today is Freedom Zone Cliff Maloney, creator of the PA Chase, chasing ballots out there in PA. How you doing, Cliff?
I'm great. How's everybody doing today?
Doing good, my man. It's a tight race, Kamala Harris says. They're showing me national polls. They're saying Kamala's ahead. But when I look at some of the battleground states, I'm like, wait a minute, though. Isn't it the Electoral College that matters, Cliff? How are we doing out there in PA?
I'll start with the good news, and then I'll go into some bad news, or at least some neutral news. So the first thing is the PA Chase is working, right? Right now, if you look, if you compare us to 2020 in terms of returns. Now, listen, Austin, a lot of times I come on your show, we talk about requests, right? Now we're starting to actually see returns. So in PA, Republicans at this time in 2020 had 44,000 ballot returns. Right now, we're over 90,000, and that's the same time compared to 2020. So we've more than doubled the amount of Republicans that have voted when you look at where we were 4 years ago. Now, the bad news is the Democrats are up as well from where they were in 2020, which is wild to me. And look, I'm always somebody to be straight about the numbers, but what I'm getting at is this. Although 460,000 less Democrats have requested a mail-in ballot, they're still up roughly 30,000 returns from where they were at this time. That to me is wild. Now, some reasons for that being that Philadelphia and Pittsburgh did get their ballots immediately. Some red counties still don't have their ballots. So I hope that those numbers are just skewed based on when ballots were received. But I got to tell you, if they keep up these returns, we're going to have to triple down and do the work to turn out voters. This is a serious election. This is going to be close. And anybody that thinks otherwise, they're asleep at the wheel. We have to stand firm and finish strong.
If I saw that early voting had begun this week, and in Georgia, the lines were already long. The early voting has started to, even Carrie Lake, after ripping on it for years, is like, I'm early voting these days, right? So Republicans have had to change their attitude and change their strategies, Cliff, and you have very much been the guy who is helping to push you, Scott Pressler, and some others out there to try and change Republican attitudes about things like voter registration, early voting, and ballot chasing, ballot harvesting. So talk to us a little bit about the attitude change that Republicans have had to have in order for us to counter what's happening, what the Democrats are doing with early voting, with ballot chasing. Talk to us about the change in attitude towards these methods of voting.
Yeah, well, look, I think the trajectory or the change that you've seen within Republican culture or the Republican environment is a rational one, right? The same path that Donald Trump took is probably the path that millions of other Republicans, that was their journey as well. And here's the journey. In 2020, we all said, well, we want to vote the most secure way. We don't really think that voting by mail is as secure as going on election day. Well, then all of a sudden you get dominated by your opponent running up the score and figuring out that low propensity folks become much more likely to vote if there's a ballot on their table. Well, then 2021, what happened? Well, we tried to get the courts to fix it. They did nothing. 2022, a lot of these states tried to get the state legislatures to step up and fix these systems and these election laws to make it a more secure and a simpler election. They failed, right? They were afraid of being called racist or election deniers. And it's like, I don't think it's racist to want to have a secure election, but some of these Republicans, as we know, they have no spine. And then in 2023, Austin, we got our ass kicked. And I think enough people looked in the mirror and were like, okay, we got to figure out how to play this game. And that's where we're at. I mean, I think that's why you see Michael Whatley and Lara Trump running the RNC, because it wasn't just amongst the activists. It wasn't just amongst the grassroots. This was a push all the way from top to bottom that we need to change and adapt if we want to win. And it's exactly the type of temperament we're finding on the ground. When we knock on doors, I'm out here today in Harrisburg. I'm headed to Lancaster. And I'll be in York, PA tomorrow. But when we're out here talking to Republican voters and independents that lean conservative, they're very willing to vote by mail, right? Phase one, we talked to low propensity voters. Hey, it's much easier to vote. And once ballots are out, Austin, as I've said before, the PHAs, our 120 full-time ballot chasers, we're now knocking on doors specifically where Republicans have a ballot. And I think if we hit this 500,000 door goal, we're going to be able to put us over the top in Pennsylvania.
Well, we certainly hope so, Cliff. We've been following everything that you're doing out there. Are there any variables that maybe other people aren't seeing? Because in the last election, 2020, the presidential race, after the election was over, Time Magazine and Politico and all the leftist rags were, after they were done celebrating, some of them published this story about the fortification efforts that the left underwent from 2016 to 2020 to ensure that Donald Trump would not be elected again. Those fortification efforts were successful in 2020. Do you feel as if between 2020 and 2024 that the RNC has pivoted in order to counter some of those fortification tactics, or are there places around the country maybe where you're concerned?
No, I think I'd rather be the RNC than the DNC when it comes to the current state of the race, when it comes to infrastructure. The only thing I'd rather have is the Democrat money. The special interests on the left, we're promising to follow the Constitution. We're not offering the gravy train to a lot of these lobbyists and special interests. So it's a very different game. And by the way, I do think the Republican Party after this cycle, if there's a victory, I do think we're going to see a huge political shift where the Republican Party will obviously be the party of the working class, the blue collar class. And I think Democrats are going to struggle to come back from that. But to answer your question specifically, Austin, there's two things I want to point out that are just specific, consistent things I'm seeing on the ground. One, Black men. I know people talk about this, and I know that, I know that this is something that people think, oh, well, what's really is it just anecdotal? I mean, we're seeing it day to day. Black men, especially in Philadelphia, are not supportive of Kamala Harris, period. They just aren't. And, a lot of them are very rabidly pro-Trump. And I just think it's very clearly the economy that is driving that. And the second point I'd like to make that we're seeing consistently is just young people. I've worked with youth organizations. I've worked with college students. I've worked with the 18 to 25-year-old demos. All of our ballot chasers typically fall between somewhere, in their 20s. I have never seen the type of support from young people for a Republican in my life. This is not 2016. This is not 2020. But the problem is, Austin, if both of those demographics, and if Hispanic men and white men, some of these other areas that Trump is dominating, is they have to show up, right? This isn't about having the numbers. This is Trump's election to lose if Trump voters don't show up. It's not theirs to win. And I think this is probably the first time in my lifetime there are more low propensity Republicans than there are Democrats. And that means that the more people that vote, it's actually better for us, which when you're a hardcore liberty guy, typically you want, the most informed to show up and those that are hardcore. But that's why I tell you we're becoming the blue collar party. So it's about turning out and making sure we run up the score.
Cliff, earlier you mentioned there during your speech about the inability of Kamala Harris to get male voters, specifically Black male voters, and the people that you spoke to in Philadelphia. And Barack Obama famously quoted as saying that he's not seeing Black men coming out in support of Kamala Harris the way that they did for him. And so now Kamala Harris is talking about going on Joe Rogan. One, I'd like to know what you would think about a Kamala Harris interview on Joe Rogan. But here's how the Washington Post and the ladies of MSNBC are talking about the male voters that she might be going after if she appears on Joe Rogan. Take a listen to this.
This is actually for all men. I think men are in crisis, actually, in this country. I think that plays out different ways. And not all men are in crisis, of course. And not all men are just at home listening to Joe Rogan, being angry or being recruited to fascism. Some just need therapy, like we all do. I go to therapy. That's great. But
she goes to therapy, Cliff. Surprise, surprise. Does that make you want to vote for Kamala Harris? Go get therapy. She'll help you get the therapy you need.
No, I think that makes me want to vomit right now. I mean, I don't know the word of saying fascism, Joe Rogan, and therapy in the same sentence. It just makes me realize that, maybe J.D. Vance was on to something when he said the childless cat ladies. This demographic is going to kill the Democrat Party. I know right now that they are leaning into this, liberal elite women. But it's just, I'm telling you, it is not a national message. It's not a demographic that can be the face of your party. That doesn't mean that, I am trying to disrespect liberal women. What I'm saying is that, they just talk down to everyone around them, right? They put every single person is labeled on the collective. They're labeled based on their, the hierarchy of what it is that they claim, whether it's that they're a cat, they, them, whatever their pronouns are. It's the type of stuff that, Jordan Peterson broke this barrier, 6-7 years ago, right? And it kind of exposed this world. And I think now it's even funnier because you have people like Matt Walsh with the Am I a Racist movie. And most normal people are now like, this stuff is bonkers. But those elite liberal women who talk like they're on a college campus are completely voiding the Democrat Party of any ability to connect with working class Americans. So I'm here for it. I just hope that they're not able to kind of stick around and pull off a win because of their hatred and brainwashing people to hate Donald Trump. Because I do think if he wins, you are going to see a huge shift, like I said, where blue collar folks are never going to turn back to the Democrat Party.
It strikes me very much as in the same sort of thought process that yielded us quotes like basket of deplorables when Hillary Clinton was referring to Donald Trump's supporters. The way that the left and the Democrats and the Kamala Harris people, the way that they look down and talk down to us is so patronizing. And it's so funny because you have the white dudes for Harris campaign commercial, and it's all these very soft spoken actor guys who are telling us that they're going to give Kamala their full throated endorsement, if you know what I'm saying. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Well, the endorsement, yes, but I think the double entendre, I think, is really what we're talking about here. But Cliff, I don't see men. I mean, Scott Adams said that the Democratic Party is the party of men and the party of women and the men who are afraid of them. And if that's true, if Scott Adams is right, we can eke out a win just from what? Sheer testosterone alone. Are there a lot of manly men working on the campaign with you, Cliff?
I think that his assessment is actually very accurate, right? I just think that that's a good thing, though, because I don't think those numbers are quite at the levels that people assume they are. Now, in academia world, those numbers are through the roof, right? It might be 90 to 10 if you count, liberal women and the men that are afraid of them. That's the entire academic world. So I just think it's that bubble. Listen, I went to college. I did the whole, racial equity walk for privilege points. I've been through it, and it's like you kind of when you're going through it and then look back, you realize just how insane it is. But that's just the culture. I mean, you have to have it, Austin, so good to be able to think the way that these elite liberal women and these men that are afraid of them do. I mean, who has time to sit around all day and think about, wokeism and, this privilege and give you a point here and a point there? And that's why I think that they're just going to continue to shrink, because working class people care about putting food on the table, paying their mortgage, getting their kid to football practice. They don't have time to think about some of those things. And I just think it's such a turnoff to anybody, even if you're looking to engage on some of these policies and issues. I mean, and these people are still referencing the gender pay gap after it's been debunked for a decade. And it's like, that's still what they're running on, is equal pay for women when it's been completely debunked. But they don't care about rational thought. They care about emotions. And I don't know if I would have said this 10 years ago, but I do think at the end of the day, rational thought wins, not always, but on a lot of these policies, after they shine some light on them, the wokeism, the BS, and all these kind of leftist tropes, they're all based on emotion, not rational thought. And I think rational thought wins in the end.
I hope so. Frank, I don't know if that's true, but I certainly hope so. Frankenbean76 over in the chat said, wait, is this Shane Gillis? No, it's Cliff Maloney. I'm sure you get that a lot, Cliff. You do look like Shane Gillis. Cliff, where can people...
Especially when I'm here in Central PA, I get it every day. It's a little rough after a while.
Cliff, tell us what people can do to sponsor a ballot chaser out in Pennsylvania, help Donald Trump win the election so we can make America great again.
Yeah, so two things. Right now, our applications, if folks want to come into Pennsylvania, if they want to actually chase ballots, we're bringing in 100 additional people. We're going to provide housing, gas cards, train you up. That's pachase.com/sprint. And if anybody out there can help sponsor a ballot chaser, $175 covers a full day. pachase.com. Listen, everybody, we win PA, we win the White House. Austin, you're a patriot. Love the show. Love the new network. Tell me how I can help, and let's win this thing.
That's right. For Liberty Network, Cliff Maloney. We appreciate everything you do, brother. We hope to toast champagne on the White House lawn with you come January. Have a good one.
Take care.
Look here, the GOP's margin among white women. Look, Romney won them by 9, all right? Trump in 2016 won them by 6. You go back 4 years ago, Trump won them by 7. Look now, look how much lower Trump's margin is among white women. Look, he still leads, but it's well within the margin of error. It's just a point. He's doing 6 points worse than he did 4 years ago. In fact, he's doing the worst, if this holds, for a GOP candidate this century among white women, John.
Kamala Harris is doing the best any Democratic candidate for president has done among white women in the 21st century. As my friend Chrissy Meyer says, daddy issues are a hell of a drug. Do you like the Wake Up America show? Do you love hanging out with your friends in the morning? We all gather together. We all sing Kumbaya and maybe little show tunes, and we talk about how the world would be a better place if more Americans believed in American liberty, in economic freedom, personal liberty. I sure hope so. I love hanging out with you guys in the mornings. This week is hell week for me because the For Liberty Network has 2 new shows. One launched last night, another launching tomorrow night. Culturama, Tuesdays and Thursdays, 7 to 9 p.m. Central Time at rumble.com/Culturama as part of the For Liberty Network. Now, if you saw Culturama tomorrow night, you get to watch it again tomorrow. If you saw Culturama last night, you get and liked it, you get to watch it again Thursday night with Daniela Pensack. Same bat time, same bat channel, but at 9 o'clock after Culturama is over tomorrow night, it's the Boys of Liberty tonight. What's up, Gannon? It's nice to see you, brother. We haven't seen you in a while. I'm glad you enjoyed the show. Don't forget to check out Liberty Tonight tomorrow night with Brian Piotr and the king of all libertarians.
Oh, God! How dare you!
He's the only real libertarian. And check the boys out tomorrow night for the premiere of their new show at rumble.com/Liberty Tonight. Tonight, I got dress rehearsal. I got to teach karate class. And I got to be on TJ Roberts' space with Thomas Massey, trying to get TJ Roberts elected out there in Kentucky. Liberty never sleeps, and freedom never sleeps. On Liberty Tonight, tomorrow night. As you exit, where do you go? Which way to the exits? This way? That way? No matter which way you go, you're going to exit through the Griff Shop. Yes, I said Griff Shop. Over on the Griff Shop, we've got a brand new item in shop. Javier Milei Waifu Pillows. Yes. Javier Milei Waifu Pillow? Javier Milei Waifu Pillows. Chainsaw of Freedom pillows available in 3 sizes. The price of this is going to go up in less than 10 minutes. So if you want one, get one right now because I'm about to go over there and raise prices on that because I think the price is too low because they're selling. So check them out at forlibertyshop.com. That's the number 4libertyshop.com. Get your custom Javier Milei waifu pillow and it'll help you get a custom Javier Milei waifu. Waifu. Onegaishimasu. We'll see you guys here tomorrow. Hope you guys have a great day. Bye, look, it's Liz. Mr. Peanut, Sisangaroth, Sign of Jonah, Mongoose 87, Quest Fanning. Love you guys. Appreciate you hanging out with us. We'll see you tomorrow morning, and then we'll see you tomorrow night on the Wake Up America show on the For Liberty Network. Bye, guys. Oh, and you unlocked the bonus content. So here it is. Enjoy.
Unlocking today's bonus content. Your financial contributions to the Wake Up America show made it possible for us to launch the new For Liberty Network. Today, we ask the question, how did immigration politics get so toxic? Today, we explore how changing migration patterns, outdated policies, and increased presidential power contributed to the current state of affairs. In April 1980, Ronald Reagan and George H.W. Bush discussed illegal immigration in a presidential forum. They proposed pragmatic solutions involving legal work permits and mutual problem-solving with Mexico, a stark contrast to today's heated rhetoric. Fast forward to now, and the conversation has shifted dramatically. The Republican Party calls for strict deportations and stringent vetting, labeling it a migrant invasion, while Democrats, though inconsistent, have leaned toward more restrictive policies. The loudest voices argue the border is more chaotic than ever, with record-breaking apprehensions and backlogged asylum courts. However, this doesn't fully explain the crisis level of border politics and management today. Current tools for border management are outdated, designed for different migration patterns seen decades ago. Migration has evolved, but policymakers continue using old solutions, exacerbating the issue. Border enforcement seems like a straightforward fix for a complex problem, touching on drug issues, national security, and economic concerns. This oversimplification fuels the toxic atmosphere surrounding immigration debates. The 2024 presidential election increasingly becomes a contest of who can be more hawkish on border issues, further entrenching inflexible views and worsening the situation. In the 1980s, unauthorized migration along the U.S.-Mexico border grew, prompting a different approach to border security, reflective of the migration patterns typical of that era. The 1986 Immigration Reform and Control Act was a bipartisan compromise addressing illegal immigration, combining penalties for employers with amnesty for undocumented immigrants, a stark contrast to today's polarized proposals. However, the IRCA had mixed results and generated controversy, particularly due to the amnesty provision and unmet border control promises, setting the stage for future debates. By the 1990s, the focus was on securing the border, reflecting a manageable migration pattern. Efforts were straightforward, as most migrants were male labor seekers from Mexico. The U.S. and Mexico began collaborating on border security, leading to significant legislative efforts and increased resources allocated to enforcement. The 2000s marked a dramatic shift in border enforcement post 9/11, with a heightened focus on security and anti-terrorism measures, leading to militarized border policies. The Secure Fence Act of 2006 exemplified bipartisan support for border security, a scenario less common today, and focused on preventing unlawful entries from Mexico. Efforts to reform immigration during this period failed despite strong bipartisan support, largely due to the shift in migration patterns which began evolving in the 2010s. By 2014, the migration flow changed significantly, with Central Americans surpassing Mexicans. Migrants were more likely to be families and minors seeking asylum, altering the enforcement landscape. The previous era of straightforward enforcement ended as migrants sought engagement with authorities for asylum claims, requiring new legal and logistical responses. The profound mismatch between the advanced border security setup and the needs of new migrant demographics highlighted systemic challenges, leaving us questioning the effectiveness of current approaches. As we navigate these complex issues, understanding the historical context and evolving migration dynamics is crucial for developing more effective and humane immigration policies.
Are you tired of the strange radioactive effects of leftist culture? Do you ever wonder what happened to good old-fashioned American values? Well, fear no more, because there's a new force fighting back against the cultural rot of today. Introducing Culturama, a right-of-center talk show that's taking back the future today. Hosted by none other than blonde bombshell herself, Daniela Pensack. She's not just talking, she's taking culture back, with sharp takes, brilliant guests, and a few surprises along the way. Tune in to the live video podcast twice a week, because the future doesn't have to be weird. It can be Culturama.
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun.
I think that the